Hello everyone. A very good morning to everyone. Today we have with us Dr. Monika Mathur. She is head of the Department of Economics at Manipal University, Jaipur. She is doctorate in the area of health economics, cost benefit analysis and comparative studies of public and private health sector. Today we welcome her for an important discussion on sustainable development goals. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
So ma'am, as you're well aware that students would want to know about what social development goals are all about and which are those goals that India wants to focus on. So we would like to understand what are your views on social development, sustainable development goals.
Thank you. Well, sustainable development goals are the goals that the UN has proposed in terms of 17 goals as such, which are very much comprehensive in nature. It includes, I guess, each and every field that we as an economy, as a country needs to achieve in order to be an economy which is developed, an economy which is catering to needs of all of its citizens, and so on and so forth. So there are 17 goals and with some 200 few indicators, and out of which 92 are specifically directly belonging to environmental development.
So ma'am, which according to you are the priority goals that we should be focusing on?
Well, I guess I can't name one because all of them are priorities in their own sphere. But if I have to name a few, the first one, that is no poverty, followed by the second one, no hunger. Then we have the goal of physical and mental well-being is also there. Gender equality is something that we need to achieve not only in the developing countries but it's also required in the developed countries. Then we have goals regarding energy, because energy is the requirement of today's time, and we know that we can't do anything without energy, and sustainable and renewable sources are required to produce energy, which is required as of today. So these are something, along with we know that development and sustainability actually are having trade-offs. So we know that if we are moving more towards the development scenario, then there is a issue regarding the sustainability, and that's why we can see what is going on around us, be it India or be it some other countries that we are looking at. So environment is again one factor that we need to focus upon alongside of these other goals that we have talked about.
Right. So ma'am, as you nicely pointed out, sustainability basically means that we keep something for the future generation also as we develop. But what we see in India is, and actually it will happen for many developing countries, that we will be always overutilizing the resources. So what would be your suggestion, how, because as you mentioned that this is always a trade-off. Anything that you can mention, how do we go ahead and we progress on the path of development, but we still keep these goals in mind as we progress?
For sure, we can't hold development because that is the need, and even the first 2-3 goals, in order to achieve them, we need to develop. We need to provide more opportunities, we need to increase the GDP, we need to increase the per capita income and so on. And that's why it is very important for us to focus on these goals. But at the same time, yes, we have to focus on environment, this thing also. Maintaining certain standards, we have to keep looking for the areas to provide for more growth of trees. If we are cutting up any mountains for building our infrastructure, we have to see how we can compensate this particular thing, and not only we have to do it in the policy, in the paper, we really have to implement it. Implementation is one thing which where if we excel, I guess India can do wonders at much higher rate. I've always believed that we have policies regarding all sort of things that we need, and that is the something that India has been a part of UN, India has been part of this SDGs right from the beginning. But we need a good governance also in order to implement it on the basically on the ground, and not only in the papers.
Right. So again, I'll pick up from that point, because this is beautifully said that we are not going ahead and implementing things the way they should be. And I recently read an article which still said that people are not going ahead and disposing the waste in the right way, and a lot of waste still gets, we are going ahead and there are no two dustbins separated for biodegradable versus non-biodegradable. So how do you ensure that the students at their level are able to go ahead and implement this? Can we go ahead and pick it up from the very basic and integrate this in the school life or college life? Can we tell them some things which can be
Definitely, it has to start from there only. From the school life, if they understand that yes, there is a difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste, and which continues, because once it becomes a habit, it is easy to follow it. It's there a part of your life. If it doesn't become a habit, you really have to think twice, or you won't even bother about it.
Right.
So if you can see, even in our campus we have this separation and segregation, and again, for a student to follow it from the school or in the university or in the campus, it should also begin at home. And for that we need to create awareness about it. But I'm very hopeful and I'm very positive that I can see the change. I can feel that today youth is much more aware about this thing as compared to the previous generation. I'm not saying that it was their fault or something, with all due respects, but this is something that you can actually see that today they are more bothered. They won't throw the waste on the road. They will like to keep it in their car and put it in the dustbin only. I've seen it happening in my family, in my neighborhood and all. And yes, there are some students, because they are really high energy people. They are, they have tens of things to do. So sometimes they do make a mistake, but then if we cultivate this as a habit, it will be more towards actually going it and doing it themselves. And so it will become a practice in the future as well.
Right. So what about other sustainable development goals? So for example, let's talk about poverty, let's talk about inequality. Most of the economic theories suggest that as an economy goes towards the path of development, then during its developing phase, you will always see inequality increasing. So for example, one of the papers that I was reading said that whenever a development will take place, it will first go to the urban area, and it will take a lot of time for it to go ahead and seep into the rural area. So rural area will for a lot of time period be underdeveloped. So is it one of the conclusive things that we have, that development will always lead to more inequality or more poverty, or can something be done about it to meet this goal?
Definitely, yes, the theories say so, and I won't deny the fact that in practice things have been like that only in the already developed countries also, or even in the developing countries. But we can surely make it start from the rural areas, because we know even in India, we know that a large chunk of the population is still living in rural areas, and there is a distressed migration happening towards urban areas. There is an unnecessary migration which people don't want to leave. People actually don't want to leave their native places, their neighborhood, and in their own original dwellings. But it is the requirement of jobs or employment opportunities which make them do so or take such a decision. So if we can provide more inclusive growth, starting from the rural areas, starting from the agricultural sector, starting from those undeveloped or underdeveloped areas, we can definitely not only stop distress migration from happening and making urban cities more overloaded, and we can also have a good beginning for the citizens in the rural areas.
Right.
And they are much more satisfied people as compared to what we see in the urban dwellings. And it is more of comparative thing also that comes into picture. The socio-economic factors are too many.
Right.
When you reach to a place which is very flashy, very this thing, and you see a dichotomous economy over there. So we can definitely stop it, and we can, or at least try to reduce this gap as much as possible. I'm not saying that we go and build the plazas and all such things over in the rural areas, but if we can provide opportunities to the rural people, we can save a lot of other issues also happening in the economy.
Right. And actually, this makes me go towards a very important point, which we teach a lot in theory, which is the Lewis model, which clearly states that people will migrate from rural to urban area only when there is a wage difference between the two. But if we are able to provide that wage within the rural area, the migration stops, and that is when we hit an equilibrium. So if we are able to go ahead and increase the wage in the rural area, I mean, a lot of people are still working in the informal sector. They don't even have that minimal wage.
Exactly.
So we will be able to attain.
Not only wage, the first thing is if we can provide them opportunities. Like for example, if someone is earning 500 rupees a day in urban dwelling, is able to earn only 400 something in the rural dwelling, he'll be more happier.
Right.
Because the cost of living, he's living in his own home, he doesn't have to go away from his native places or his relatives and all these things. So he will be more happy in the rural dwelling rather than going to the urban, where the cost of living is also very high. He's not getting a good place to stay.
Right.
That is the reason we can see a lot bigger slums coming up in the big metro city. What is this? This is simply displaced migration happening. The people are not getting any places to reside, and so they are mushrooming in slums only. So they are not happy, obviously, there.
Right.
They are there because it is their requirement, it is something that they have to do, because they have to support some people maybe who are still there in their native places.
Right. And actually speaking, when we even look at the way that India counts its poverty line, it is anyways different for the rural and the urban area. And a lot of poverty line measures are based on the calorie intake. So when it comes to the rural area especially, the intake is, so I've seen a lot of poverty lines are based on the calorie intake, they're based on the difference in the sex, this difference in the area that you live in. So I think that this is a well said point, that a rural area person may find his happiness with less money even in the rural area, rather than
even he has that money, because if he doesn't have any job, if he has zero money, he will have to go. And poverty line in India has always been a point of controversy.
Yes.
We have always been debating upon it, whether this is correct or that is correct. And this is a phenomena which you cannot have that absolute, correctness, if I can say. Even whatever the World Bank defines as the poverty line, that keeps on changing with changes in time. But the rates of inflation differ, the conditions differ, the cost of livings differ. There are a lot many differences across the countries, and that's why we just can't say that even that that universal line of poverty is correct. So there will always be a debate about it, that how can we put one parameter. We can just say, okay, this is one basic scenario which we can think if we want to compare, if we want to make a comparison between rural and urban, or male, female, or any such thing, then this is the basis through which we can start. We can't say it is absolutely correct and it is always going to be.
Right. So ma'am, what about the other goals like energy? How do we go ahead and put our step forward in that goal, and what can India do to achieve it?
I'm not an expert in energy, but yes, we do need renewable energy, and India has taken up these particular issues, not today, even a few years back. We need, I believe what we need to develop and we need to improve upon is how we can improve the consumption from such energy. For example, I take example of solar energy. Now we believe Rajasthan is a great state to tap solar energy, and so the policy that the Rajasthan government shall make should be something which encourages people to utilize this solar energy rather than depending upon the routine energy discoms and all. So that will, yes, there are policy initiatives, people are making efforts, the government is also taking initiatives in agricultural sector also. It is we have solar water pumps, and we have people in the consumer line also coming up, but we need a little bit more faster implementation, we can say, and more proactive initiatives, I guess, we can take and tap this, because solar energy is like, other than the plant and the things which are required, is you don't have to pay anything for it, and it is and great source of energy. We can definitely use it. The places where we can convert wind energy, this is also something. So
Right.
yes, India, I believe, has already started taking a few steps towards it. Right now, we also have vehicles coming up which are electric vehicles. So this is also one good step. And now people have started buying it. What we need is also a good infrastructure to support that. Because if today I feel that I need to buy a four-wheeler which is electric vehicle or two-wheeler which is electric vehicle, then I need to have some points of infrastructure, so that when I feel that I'm going to Delhi, in between, if something happens, where am I going to, get mechanics for my vehicle?
Right.
So that infrastructure needs to be developed at a faster speed. But I am hopeful.
Sure. So, ma'am, what would you like to suggest the current economists? What should be, like, the young economists who are there in your university, in your college, what should be their step of actions so that they ensure that their future generation has resources left for them and we are developing sustainably?
Okay. Well, I believe that anybody who is studying economics, they do develop that critical mindset, that analytical mindset, and they do understand slowly these requirements also that we have been talking about today. And today's generation is much better informed generation. They have information at a click of their button, which we didn't have, and they are quite aware of what is correct or what is not in terms of whatever things they are doing. So if they are vigilant enough, alert enough, I guess they'll automatically be doing certain things which will be their habits in order to promote that sustainability. Be it usage of water, be it usage of electricity, be it as you were saying, dustbins and all that, conversion of waste to some useful sources. So there are students who come up with such projects also. They are there. So they have a lot of ideas also, and as I said, they have the information at the click of the button. So a lot of innovative ideas they have. The kind of energy they have is tremendous. The only thing we need to, actually channelize this energy into the right direction, to give them a direction, and if we can do so, I think then our purpose is solved.
Right. So, I think it was a very relevant discussion with ma'am today. We talked about the sustainable development goals, why they are important, and how our future generation can be helped if we go ahead and we do the relevant actions in today's world. If we go ahead and put some efforts today, future is definitely saved. So thank you so much for your time, ma'am. It was a very insightful session, and I hope that the students gain a lot of information from it. And I also hope that students go ahead and search more about it and get more information about sustainable development.